Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting version of Chip Talks Health. Today should be super exciting. So, we're going to give you guys some great tips on how to defend yourself, on how to improve your health, and really on how to de-risk disease. So, it's going to be pretty cool. At the end of this, we'll go through some statistics. Again, I've used the AI along with existing studies to really do some computational analysis on how these things will help and what they'll help with. So stick around for the end because you're going to enjoy that. And if you have type 2 diabetes, if you have cardiovascular disease, if you have obesity, if you have fatty liver, Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's, cancer, kidney disease, autism, allergies, infectious disease like burning, gastric upset, burping, bloating, things like that, depression, anxiety, or migraines and neuralgia, you're going to want to stick around for this because we're going to greatly reduce the risk that you have of, let's say, those things getting worse. And also, if you don't have anything, we're going to basically decrease your risk of getting anything. So let's talk you through the 3 pillars of health. And by the way, this is something that if you come through our clinic, you're going to hear this. You're going to hear this again and again and again. I'm going to beat you about the head and shoulders with these 3 pillars. And here's why. Because most of us don't understand how to work our immune system. Now, the 2 most important things that you do as an entity is, first of all, you produce energy. And we're going to talk about that in the context of all this. So we produce energy, but that's variable. That can change. You don't always produce the same amount of energy. And the second most important thing that you do every day is defend yourself, is basically defend your castle. Put up your shields. I'm a Star Trek fan, so we're going to talk about Star Trek, and we're going to talk about shield strength and all that. So you can think of your immune system as shields, all right? People ask us all the time, what we deal with mainly in our clinic is infection. So most of us are infected with hook, round, and pinworm. We're infected with H. pylori. We're infected with cytomegalovirus. We're infected with Epstein-Barr virus, enterococcus viruses, lactobacillus acidophilus can overgrow. So we've all got these, let's say, pathogen problems. Now, some of these we don't get any feedback on. So we don't know that these guys are affecting our health. We can't directly kind of tie what we feel or how we're feeling or, things that hurt with some kind of infection. But I'll tell you, these guys are responsible for 99.9% of disease. So, not trauma and not, acute injury, but they're responsible for almost everything else. So how do you defend yourself against getting infected? And how do you basically put your body into a better fighting stance to fight off infection? So that's what we're going to talk about. So 3 pillars of health that are super important because, again, most disease is just tied back to being infected, which causes an inflammatory response, which causes all kinds of problems inside of us. So the first pillar is intermittent fasting. Okay. So, and hopefully I don't lose anybody. This isn't about eating less. This is about packing your food into a shorter window. In fact, you can eat more. Okay. So I'm not going to deny you anything. You can eat as much as you want doing this. You just need to behave in a certain way around your eating. So let's talk that through. Okay. So how you produce energy, you've actually got 2 gears. And this comes from mitochondria. Mitochondria will run in a low gear and they'll run in a high gear. Okay. If you're in low gear, you are storing fat. You're running on sugar and you're storing fat. If you're in low gear, you are 50 times less powerful than you are in high gear. If you're in low gear, you are making cholesterol. So if you have cholesterol problems, you don't want to stay in low gear because you're just making more of it. If you have cancer, you have no way to fight cancer in low gear. Okay. So low gear is pretty consequential. High gear, we're 50 times more powerful. So we have 50 times the immune strength. We have 50 times, we have shields. You can think of it as my Star Trek analogy. We have strong shields. We have 2 ways to fight cancer. We are breaking down cholesterol rather than making it. And up here, we're burning fat rather than storing it. So if you have a weight issue, again, this is where you want to be. How does this switch work? Eating, okay? When we eat, we go down here for 5 hours. Eating is by far and away the most, consequential thing that we do to ourselves. We need to nutrient our bodies, so we need to eat, but we need to understand this switch because, frankly, this switch is killing us. It's why we're getting so infected. It's why we're so weak in our immune system. It's why we die from things like COVID, okay? Because we live down here. Think about what you're taught to do. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Oh, mom, how could you ever send your kids off to school without eating breakfast? We're just hammered with these messages. Watch what happens. We wake up. We're in this better state. We're in high gear. We're ready to go. What do? We eat breakfast. Blop. We go right down here for 5 hours. And breakfast might be creamer in your coffee. Breakfast might be the sugar that you're putting in your coffee or the sugar that you're putting in your tea. You might tell me, oh, Chip, I don't eat breakfast. Why do you put creamer in your coffee? Yeah. Sugar in your coffee? Yeah. You eat breakfast. So again, coffee's okay black. Tea is okay with no sugar in it. Stevia is really, really good. But every time we eat black, we go down here for 5 hours. So think about this. We eat breakfast. We go down here. About the time we're getting ready to pop back up into high gear, we eat lunch. About the time we're getting ready to pop back up into high gear, we eat dinner. Then we eat that snack or that Dr. Pepper or that energy drink or that donut. Most of us live down here. And when we're down here, we are easy to infect, very, very easy to infect. Okay. And certainly for these super bugs like H. pylori and, hookworm and pinworm, we're easy to infect. So again, people ask me all the time, well, how do I get infected? You live down here. It's easy to infect you. How do you change that? Intermittent fast. And what intermittent fast means is it's really packing all of our meals into a short time frame so we don't do this. So we're not back and forth, through this switch. So what we want to do is kind of eat once or twice during the day, have our time down here, and then pop back up and have most of our day up here in high gear. So how do people start? And again, it's an 8-hour window. So if you're a breakfast eater, if you say, Chip, I cannot skip breakfast. I have to have breakfast every day. It's just, I'm a breakfast eater. All right, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. That's your window. So that's an 8-hour window. You need to start eating at 8 a.m. and stop eating at 4 p.m. If you're like most of us can skip breakfast. And so that's kind of what I did. And the way Cindy and I started doing it was we just skipped breakfast and ate at lunch and then ate at dinner. We've now packed all of our meals into like a 4-hour window, which is super beneficial, really helps your immune system, helps your energy level. And the thing that happens when we eat, and again, if you live down here, you don't really feel it. So every time I eat, I get tired. No, you're not going to feel it because you live down here. But if you're up here when you eat, you're going to feel that consequence. And as you begin to do this more, you're going to feel how, tired you get when you eat. So eating is consequential, and we need to minimize basically our time eating and pack all that into a window. Eat as much as you want in the window, not trying to deny anything, not trying to get you to not eat certain things. Again, ideally, we're eating good food and not eating a bunch of sugar and gluten, but pack that stuff into an 8-hour or less window. Now, just intermittent fasting has been shown to rectify type 2 diabetes, is a great thing to help fight cancer. Just the benefits are on and on and on. Why? Because you don't have shields down here and you have shields up here. And we have to have shields. Your body is the thing that fights disease. Your body is the thing that heals you from disease. And again, in low gear, you don't have the juice to be able to do that. Disease is going to get you. These pathogens are going to eat you up. Okay. So point 1 in the 3 pillars of health, intermittent fast. Point 2 in the 3 pillars of health is balance omega-3 and omega-6 fats. Omega-3 and omega-6 fats are the 2 most important foods that we put in our mouths every single day. They literally program us. They are the master precursors for the endocannabinoid system, your master regulatory system. And by your consumption of omega-3 and omega-6 fats, you program yourself as to be basically no inflammatory reaction, not much of an immune system, but a super healer. That would be if you just ate only omega-3s. If you just ate only omega-6s, you're going to be an inflammatory reactionary mess. So we need these in balance. Omega-6s are like fire. They are inflammatory, they are reactive, and we need some of that in our immune system because when things happen, we want to be able to react. We want to be able to inflame a little bit and kind of deal with that stuff. So we need a little bit of omega-6, not anything like what we're eating it now. Omega-3s are like calm, cooling water. They're healing and they're deflaming, okay? We're not eating any omega-3s right now. Now, if you were just eating all omega-3s, you wouldn't have much of an immune response, but you'd be a super healer. So these bugs would be eating you, but you'd be healing kind of right behind. We don't want that either. So you don't want an oversupply of omega-3 and you don't want an oversupply of omega-6. We want to eat these in balance. Okay, let me give you an example of this. So let's say you have an allergy, okay? The reactivity of your allergy is going to be associated with this balance. So let me give you an example. So let's say you have an allergy to dust. If I feed you equal amounts of omega-3 and omega-6, I can drive you into a dust storm. You're not going to be very happy with me because you're going to have a hell of an allergic reaction in the dust storm. But as soon as we come out of the dust storm, whoop, you're going to come right back to normal. So you're going to be the same person that you were before we drove into the dust storm. Why? Because you have equal amounts of omega-3, omega-6. You can inflame a little bit. You can deal with the insult, which is dust in this case, and then you can deflame when that insult is done. That's the way we're built to run. If I feed you what we're eating, same person, no difference, same person, just going to feed you a little different fat profile. If I feed you more omega-6s over omega-3s in the ratio that we're eating them now, which is about 40-1, first of all, I can't drive you into a dust storm. I might kill you. You literally might go into anaphylactic shock and die. That's how reactive and inflammatory you are. One little dust mite is going to cause you to have a huge overreaction, a big, giant over-inflammatory reaction that you're going to have trouble mitigating. You're going to have trouble pulling back that reaction. That's where most of us are right now. That is crazy. So again, we think of ourselves as boy in the bubble, right? We think of ourselves as, oh, if COVID works its way into our bubble, we'll get COVID. Not the way it works, boys and girls. You get exposed to everything all the time. So your immune system is like a rifleman in your lungs and everywhere where you're open. Pow, 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 pow. He's constantly shooting down and killing off these pathogens that are trying to infect you. If you're concerned with a giant overreaction of a dust mite, you're pulling resources from his ability to do that. And that leaves you weak and open. That basically makes your shields weaker. And we don't want weak shields. We want strong shields. Now, the next thing people always ask is on omega-3, omega-6, well, where do we get omega-3? Where am I eating all this omega-6 over omega-3? So corn oil is loaded with omega-6 with no omega-3 in it. Safflower oil, sunflower oil, and canola can be good, but not the GMO'd canola that we have now. So canola now is, heavy in omega-6. And these are the things that we're calling seed oils. Now, there's lots of good seed oils. Chia seed oil is a great oil. Cranberry seed oil, black seed oil are great oils. So we can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. They're really good seed oils. But most of the seed oils, let's say that HHS or RFK Jr. are talking about right now, are these omega-6 heavy seed oils. And they're in everything. So if you eat processed food, you're eating lots of omega-6 and no omega-3. Now, the other thing that happens is, again, we get these fats from meat, all right? So we get these fats from meat. And our meat builds basically these fats in their meat by what they eat. Our meat right now is eating a lot of corn and soy. In fact, I think Pilgrim's Pride and Tyson's require those farmers to feed their chickens, meat or corn and soy. Now, what this is going to do is that imbues in the meat, and that makes the meat basically really heavy in omega-6. So most of the omega-6 that we're getting right now is in meat. If you can get grass-fed, grass-finished meat, then that will help the situation. It doesn't adequately supplement for omega-3, but at least helps the situation not be quite so bad. So grass-fed, grass-finished are going to be better for this situation. And over time, again, we're going to begin to change our feed that we're feeding these animals, where we'll make these animals into an omega-3, omega-6 vitamin. And that's the cool thing about understanding this, is we can configure, you configure yourself by what you eat. We can configure an animal by what they eat. And it appears that this is, not being used for good right now. Sadly, it's being used for bad. But it's easy to fix, right? So balance your omega-3, omega-6. You've got to assume that you're getting plenty of omega-6. And so we just suggest right now to supplement with omega-3. We have a great omega-3 supplement in TrueMedX. So check that out. Or we always suggest also just a tablespoon of chia seeds a day is an adequate amount for an omega-3 supplement. So try one of those things. Okay. So 2 pillars right now. So intermittent fast, balance omega-3 and omega-6 fats. And here's the third pillar, is vitamins. All right. Vitamins are critically important, especially B and C vitamins, which we'll talk about in a second. Vitamins A, vitamins D, vitamin E, and vitamin K are all fat-soluble vitamins. So what does that mean? Well, it means that your body will store them. So they're not as critical that you have them every day. They're also in meat. So if you're a meat eater, you're going to be getting some of those vitamins as much as the meat got, but some of those vitamins in meat, because you're going to be getting them in the fat in the meat. So it's not so critical. It is, you need, I would suggest everybody take a big multivitamin, every single day. And again, we've got a great one in TrueMedX. But vitamins A, D, E, and K are fat soluble, so you're storing them. So they're not, let's say, as critical as vitamin B and vitamin C. Vitamin B and vitamin C are water-soluble vitamins. That means that you pee them out every day. Your body doesn't have any way to store them. So what you eat is what you get every single day. Where do you get B vitamins? Yeah, we don't anymore. Okay. And guess what happens and you get them from vegetables and things like that, but you have to do a lot of math and you have to eat a lot of vegetables, let's say, to be nutriently satisfied with all the B vitamins. Now, what do B vitamins do? B vitamins are critical for cellular function, especially in your immune system. And what happens with cells is if they don't get all the nutrients they need, they just quit. So you've got riflemen out there, but they don't have any rifles. They don't have any bullets. They need their B vitamin bullets. They need their B vitamins to be able to do kind of what they need to do. So cells really, really need B vitamins. And so B vitamins are super critical in how we defend ourselves. You don't want a bunch of soldiers with no guns and no ammo. And that's what you have if you just kind of eat normal and aren't paying attention to B vitamins. C vitamins really help with problems. So if you are infected with something, you're going to be creating a lot of oxidative stress, and C vitamins really help calm that down. And that helps, let's say, that oxidative stress not cause other problems. Oxidative stress, leads to inflammation. Inflammation is kind of what kills us. Inflammation is what puts pressure on our organs and other systems. You don't really die of a heart attack. God just doesn't say one day, Chip, I think I'll stop your heart today. It doesn't work that way. You die of years of basically pressure on an organ, like on the heart. And what causes that pressure? Infection, oxidative stress, and inflammation. But inflammation is caused by something. Oxidative stress is caused by something. And that's usually infection, 95% of the time. Could be environmental, could be allergy, but usually infection. Okay, so those are the 3 pillars: intermittent fasting, balance O3, O6, take your B vitamins and C vitamins. Take all vitamins, but B's and C's are the most critical. So if I can do that, well, what does that do? Okay, so look at this. I reduce my risk for type 2 diabetes by 70 to 85%. And the reasons are up there if you want to kind of get into the reasons. I reduce my risk of cardiovascular disease, 60 to 75%. I reduce my risk of obesity, 65 to 80%. I reduce my risk of depression and anxiety 50 to 70%. I reduce my risk of migraines 40 to 60%. My infectious disease susceptibility 65 to 90%. Now, let me ask you this. If you're an employer, um, again, in the three pillars, what costs anything? Intermittent fasting is a behavior thing. Balancing omega-3 and omega-6. Again, I just need to pick up some chia seeds from the baking aisle. So it might cost me $5. And balancing basically, or taking our B and C vitamins, I'm going to have to get a good multivitamin. Get the TrueMedX vitamin. You want it. It's so silly in vitamins. Why do people do? Here's your vitamin A, that'll be $40. Here's your vitamin B. Oh, it's a complex. Yeah, that one's 50. Vitamin C is 40. Vitamin D is 40. Vitamin E is 40. Vitamin K is 40. We didn't do that to you guys. And we also put metals with our vitamins. So we've got a therapeutic dose of all the vitamins. We've got magnesium, we've got zinc, we've got copper, we've got chromium, we've got selenium, we've got glutathione in our vitamin, along with a therapeutic dose of all the vitamins. And it's $40. Okay. So get our vitamin. That's the easiest thing. It did cost you something. It cost you $40. But if you don't get our vitamin, just make sure that you are getting enough B, and it's all the Bs. B12 is not good enough. You need all the Bs. All right. All the Bs. And there's used to be 17 of them. They've kind of cut some of them out. But all the Bs are super important. So again, if I can do these three things, then I am going to greatly mitigate my risk. Now, if you're an employer, does this help you? I mean, how much can this save you cutting down on sick days? How much can this save you in productivity? It's pretty insane. And we're going to start doing some math around that pretty soon too. But make sure you've got a good program. So make sure you've got a good, yourself. Make sure you've got this in your, thinking. So intermittent fast, balance O3 and O6, and take those B and C vitamins. Anyway, we'll leave it there for this week. We'll be back next week with another exciting version of Chip Talks Health. See you guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning in to Chip Talks Health, where we uncover the truth so your body can do what it was designed to do, and that's heal. If today's episode helped you think differently about your health, give us a like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs it. Want to go deeper? Visit TrueMedX.com to explore science-backed solutions, or book a bioresonance scan at Neighborly Wellness to find out the root cause of what's holding you back. Until next time, stay curious, stay well, and keep listening to your body.